prophet said, you have a holy book called Circle 7. If we're not using this as a reference, which was good from that last class, right? That yeah, there was a Bible in here, but we don't need to read from that for validation of nothing. Because that's not our stuff. People might take it personal and emotional. Well, why you guys don't want to read from the Bible? Or why you don't want to read from Chancellor Williams' book? Or why do you want to read from this guy or that guy's book? Because that's not our stuff. And we're not supposed to be compared to no Back to Africa movement, or that we came from Africa, or anything of that perspective. Because our prophet told us that that's how stuff's supposed to run. And there's a lot of things that the prophet said that we can't even really implement because of this whole sellout factor of people trying to push Moorish Science Temple of America from 1913. Which is misrepresentation of the Moorish Science Temple of America, because it is a religious corporation only. And the activity from the Moorish Science Temple of America is largely religious. In the concept of what people out there consider religion. So this really is our church. This is really our house of worship. This is really where we go and, every holy day, which is Friday for Moors, we go here and we do the rituals that have to do with religion, with the members that are part of this. But there's other avenues. There's other things that were done, that were implemented, that many people don't want to really recognize it. Right? So the Moorish Science Temple of America, under the Moorish Science Temple of America, it's supposed to be schools, industry, press, newspapers, Young Businessmen's League, Women's Auxiliary, Moorish Community Development, Civics and Law, Instruction, Communications, and everything else. But they stop right here at this religious perspective and say, okay, well, we're Moors and we have a Moorish Science Temple, and then we're just going to be in the Moorish Science Temple, and we're going to recognize Noble Drawley, and we're going to do like this, and we're going to say the Moorish American prayer, and we're going to face the east, and we have Circle 7, and then that's it. And then after that, they go home and they chill, and then until next Friday, they come back and they go do some more stuff. When the Prophet specifically said that the purpose of you being brought into this is for you to take your place amongst the affairs of men and do things necessary to make yourself better citizens.
So the more pertinent issue would be our civic duties.
Exactly.
And our spiritual duties.
Exactly.
Right, and our duties within the movement.
Exactly.
Right. But when the time comes to say to do industrious things within industry or so forth, that's what the MSTA is there for.
Exactly. That's the purpose of it. So we now have a body that we can use to say that this is why we're doing these industrious things.
Right.
Right? Just like the man that's building the Islamic Center or whatever.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Islamic Museum of Art.
He's using quote unquote Islam as the vehicle to build this big building that's going to be a museum or whatever it is.
Right.
Because that's what the purpose of it is. Right? Those Hindus who built that temple up on Highway 27 or whatever it is. Right? It's because it's a quote unquote religious building.
Yeah.
And they're using that as the vehicle to have this big building. But you can only do that with your stuff. Right? Like the church is owned by the Roman Catholics. So yeah, they'll give you a big building, but you don't own that. That's not not yours per se, right? We're just exercising as like branded people in those institutions. Like Pan-African things, not our stuff. That we can say, well, yeah, that's ours. We're going to use that, and we're going to do things on that level. And majority of times, when like even if you look at the activity of certain groups that make some type of progress, the only reason they're making progress is because they're not a threat to the same system that they're saying that they're organizing to fight against. That there's like Nation of Islam is going to be like the biggest Jew bashers, but Jews aren't really not paying them no mind or whatever. You know what I mean? Like Jews aren't going out of their way to say, yo, you guys can't say that or whatever. They're just letting them do their thing. Because you're not a threat. Like you're not destroying anything. All you're doing is just flapping your gums.
Just working with the leash on.
That's all. You know what I mean? And this was the taking off the leash. Right? Because once we, whether we do it from the Moorish Science Temple of America perspective, whether we do it from the Moorish Holy Temple of Science perspective, or the Old Canaanite Temple perspective, we're still doing what has to be done once we're active. It's all right. Right? Once we're active, we're doing what has to get done. Right? And activity doesn't mean that you have to be going everywhere in your fez, and activity just means, yo, get involved. Get some space. Go to court one day and just ask a question. See what happens. Don't just look at this as you're in this little box called Moorish Science Temple of America, and you're just going to chill in this box. And your purpose is just to be in this box. There's a bigger jurisdiction that we're part of. Right? Moorish Divine and National Movement. Right? It's divine and it's national. Right? And if we look at the 101 questionnaire, when you read the 101 questionnaire, let's say you go to question 45. How did he teach? Meaning Yahshua. How long did he teach? 18 years. 46. What did Jesus, Yahshua, say that would make you free? Truth. 47. What is truth? Truth is Ot. 48. What is Ot? Ot is Allah. So that's question and answer, which means that that's a dialogue. Which means that that's one on one. So the prophet's sitting you down, one-on-one, and he's breaking down everything to you. And he's giving you the questions and he's giving you the answers, so we don't have to do anything really. All we have to do is just study what he said. Right? And if we look at one-on-one or 101, right? 0 has no value, so 1 and 1 is still divine and national, right? Which is the same thing as like 2 tiers, two columns. One column is divine, one column is national. One column has to do with the spiritual, one column has to do with the physical. One column has to do with activity, one column has to do with passivity. But if we don't exercise it, if we're not doing anything with it, that's why he said, if you're not going to do nothing, just take off your turban and fez and then return back to where I found you. Because we're more destructive not being active. Right? Like, ample amounts of Moors. Like coming at what we're doing. We're having a class on Saturday. Oh, the Prophet said you have to have class on Sunday. What are you guys talking about? How about class every day? Because 1913 was when this thing started, and it's 2011, and people still don't know about this. So obviously somebody's not doing what they're supposed to do. If the purpose of this is to uplift fallen humanity, and humanity is still falling in 2011, then somebody dropped the ball. And the European didn't drop the ball, because I see them making progress. Hindu didn't drop the ball, because I see them making progress. Chinese didn't drop the ball, those guys are making progress. Hungarians making progress. People who came to Canada 50, 60 years after so-called black people came here have more than black people have here. Right? Because they fell from the fact that a prophet came to them to bring them certain things, to make them better citizens, which will make them better members of society. And all of this is stuff that the passive Moors would try to keep you from doing. Right? They're going to say that you can't, for example, call a convention. Why can't I call a convention? If I see that it's time for a convention, then we're going to call it. And we're going to invite all those Moors who want to come to the convention to come to the convention. Right? And we're going to take the steps necessary to make sure that we have a good location and that, you know what I mean, there's a hotel close so that the Moors can be at the hotel and stay at the hotel and make sure that they have whatever they need in order for them to make it convenient to come to the convention. Right? So when we start getting into this information on the level that we're supposed to get into this information on, we're going to be getting attacked by people who are pushing a perspective that is only from 1928 forward. And they're not at all trying to go back to these stuff. They're strictly on this. Moorish Science Temple of America only. And if you're just on this, right? When this is the latest thing to come into the movement, then you're stagnant. If you're not exercising in all these realms and you're just exercising here, because well, the Prophet said that he changed the name from Moorish Holy Temple of Science to Moorish Science Temple of America. But if this is a civic organization, in order for it not to exist, that means it has to get dissolved. And there's nowhere saying that the Prophet dissolved any of these. There's nowhere saying that the Prophet said, okay, well, Moorish Science Temple of America is now in existence, so anybody who's saying that they're Moorish Holy Temple of Science, don't say that anymore, because you have to say that you're Moorish Science Temple of America now. Right? Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Moors are going to say that that's the Constitution. Right? Divine warning. Divine warning to the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family, bearing one free national name. The national constitution is the constitution of the nation. The divine constitution and bylaws is domestic.